All right, so we are going to jump back in from last week. So we're in Perek Chaf Daled. Rivka was just asked, right, do you want to come? And, right, shocking response, she says, right, I want to go, right? If we go back into Perek Chaf Daled, Pasuk Nun Chet, right, that they say to her, Vayomru, Ela telchi ma isha zeh? Right, and we said last time, like, hearing that tone, like, do you want to go with this guy? Right, this guy that you met at the well yesterday, how insane, right? But the pasuk ends, Vatomer elech, and she says, yes, I do, right? And that's how we closed last week of just this shocking moment of however old she is, I don't really care, right? This is crazy. This is crazy that she's doing lech lecha without God whispering into her ear, without some major introduction, right? So we're already given so much about her, and I really believe that that word, elech, even though it's just one, right, of that hint of lech lecha, of that allusion to it, is giving us our real next understanding of who she is.
What
right?
inspired her to do this?
Excellent. The text never tells us what inspires her, why she says yes, but lie, and I think that's going to be a piece of it, I think there's a piece of her running away. Meaning, for Abraham, it was very much running to, right? This is, lech lecha, I'm going where God is telling me because all of these wonderful things are going to be there. And I think for Rivka, there's a large piece of, I know I just don't want to be here. And therefore, I've heard about this guy, I've heard about this concept, I'm willing to try it. And going out with that idea, right? And I think that does speak to Aliyah for so many people, right? There are the Abrahams who are going to, and there are also the Rivkas who are leaving that and going for hoping something better than whatever that is, right? And I think even to myself, of different people's reactions since October 7th, there are many people who have, thank God, chosen to move here since then. And I think it's a mixed bag of Abrahams and Rivkas, of people who are like, that is clearly God's place, even after we saw what happened. And then there are other people who are like, no, the writing is on the wall here, and we need to get out, and therefore we're coming. So I think there's always different versions of coming here and how you make it. So I think this is introducing us to the Rivka version of saying, this is not what I want. So writing on the wall, I'm coming, right? So Elech is definitely our next introduction to her after we saw the Rosh Gadol last week. This week, we're seeing a little bit of Abraham already, right? A little bit of that go-getter. If I want something more, I have to be the one who goes to get it, and she is. Pasuk Nun Tet, Vayishachu et Rivka achotam, ve'et menikata, ve'et Eved Avraham, ve'et Anashev. So they send Rivka, their sister, with her menikata, her nanny, her wet nurse, her, however you want to define it, I'm going to call it a nanny, right? The woman who takes care of her, and they head out with Eved Avraham, with Eliezer. See, you know it's getting better when I can shed, right? So Pasuk Samach, Vayivarchu et Rivka, they bless Rivka, Vayomru la, and they say to her, Achotenu at, Hayila alfei revava, v'yurash zarech et shar sonav. Right? You are our sister, therefore you should become thousands, and your children should inherit their enemies. Right? And I think there's this like odd allusion to, we don't really know this dude who you're going with, and we really don't know if it's going to be okay. So let's just hope that you can take care of yourself and be successful there, whatever your future brings.
What pasuk are you in?
I'm about to start Samach Aleph
Okay.
in Perek Chaf Daled. Vatakam Rivka v'na'aroteha v'tirkavna al hagmalim v'tilachna acharei ha'ish. So Rivka and her servants get up and they travel on their camels, following this man. Vayikacha Eved et Rivka vayilech. And Eliezer takes Rivka and they head out. Now I just want to make sure we have a full visual of the scene because it's so crucial, right? I want to also appreciate that I think I learned just as much from Downton Abbey in this as I did from this pasuk.
From where?
Right, the show Downton Abbey. Excellent
Like upstairs,
show.
downstairs.
Okay.
It takes place back in the early 1900s, and one of the best scenes that I loved was when one of the actresses was so progressive that she actually rode a horse full straddle, meaning one leg on each side of the horse, and how immodest that was, and how bold she was in the, I think it was the early 1920s.
Lady
that she
Mary.
was, say it again?
Lady Mary.
Yes, exactly. See, you remember the scene.
I'm English.
But exactly that, what I want to highlight is, for me, it made the scene so much more real, because back in the day, you would side saddle if you were a female. So you had to sit, literally just your tush on top of the saddle, your legs both on one side, which is obviously insanely unsafe, right? Obviously not gonna work out well for anybody, right? So I don't care how old you are, I don't care how trained you are, right? This is an unsafe way to ride an animal, okay? With that in our minds, right, to get the full visual, Pasuk Samach Bet, V'Yitzchak ba, Mibo Be'er Lachai Roi. And Yitzchak was coming from Be'er Lachai Roi, V'hu Yoshev Be'eretz HaNegev. He was living in the Negev. We're going to do one more pasuk, and then we're going to go back to talk about Yitzchak. Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh lifnot arev. And Yitzchak was coming from, we'll say, working in the fields, but we'll go to the Mefarshim there in a minute. Evening time. Vayisa inav, he raises his eyes. Vayar, v'hinek malin bayim. And he sees, there are camels coming. Right? But I want to make sure we're very, very aware that no one knows either side who's coming. Meaning, she's coming down this mountain, she's been traveling clearly for hours, right? So she's going to see someone, but who knows who the dude she's about to see is, right? So I want that clear. In addition, he has no idea who's coming either, right? Okay, there are camels coming, but more than that, we don't know. We are going to go back to these psukim because this is the source of Mincha. This is going to be the significant source of him initiating Tfilat Mincha. I do want to spend time on that, but first I want to see their meat. Okay, so he is coming from the working or doing something in the evening. He looks up and he sees these camels approaching. And then, Samach Dalid, Vatisa Rivka at Eineha. Rivka raises her eyes. Vatira at Yitzchak. And she sees Yitzchak. Vatipol me'al hagamal. And she falls off the camel. Now, number one, that is so unnecessary. Who cares, right? But it's letting us know, right? Literally all that had to happen for her to fall off of the camel if she's side saddling is, you just let go for a second. You know what I mean? This is not like, oh my God, I was overtaken and I felt, no. Like literally you lose focus for just a second and you lighten your strength of the reins and you're off the camel, okay? So I acknowledge something about him struck her, that she just lost focus for a second.
But I'm still looking, is it a midrash that she was 3?
Yes.
Okay, so we're not riding a camel when we're 3, besides saddle or not.
Yeah.
Like what's going on?
I don't think she's 3.
Right, so how old is she?
We don't know. We don't know how,
And why did they say she's 3 then?
we're gonna get to that, not tonight.
Okay.
I don't think. We'll see. We'll see
Okay,
where
because
time
the whole thing doesn't make any
allows us.
sense.
But whether she's 14 or 24, I don't care.
Mhm.
You lose focus for just
not
a
3,
half
not-
a second.
Okay.
But you
And you're
said she
down.
wasn't side saddle. I
No,
thought-
I'm saying that's what was so striking about Mary.
Oh.
That's only in the 1920s we learned how to actually ride an animal. Meaning, I think she's pre-1920s.
Because the Queen always rode side saddle.
Yes, exactly. Meaning it's a respectful,
It's a new-
appropriate,
it's a
sanua way
Sanua
to handle
way.
the scene. And I think she
Even
was.
if you're gonna fall off.
Yes, and exactly, right? I feel so bad for her in this moment, right?
It's
You're
like
just-
the Torah's meet cute.
Say it again?
The Torah's meet cute.
Yes, exactly.
Meet cute. Like a cute way of meeting.
Right. Like it happens to be a very cute scene.
And so the men would always be safe and the women never were
Yeah.
then. Interesting.
Yeah, having
That's
nothing
nice.
to do with Tanakh. This is world history.
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
in the area, whatever. I mean, no
Yeah.
one was ever safe if you're
Yeah.
female ever.
Yeah, until 1920s. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank God, we live in a different time. Not that I ever have an interest in riding animals, but I'm just saying, thank God we live in a different time.
Yitzhak was in Be'er Lachai why? Because he was with
Excellent.
Esav?
That's what we're going to go back to.
He was with Esav? Because Esav's the...
Asap's there, and we actually did Be'er Lachai. What is really it known for?
The Wells thing?
Yishmael.
Oh.
Yishmael is there. Yitzchak's not born. Esav is going to be his kid, but Yishmael is there. So we're going to spend a lot of time on Be'er L'chai Ro'i and that mincha, but after we have them meet. So she falls off her camel, right? Now I want to just be able to relate to the scene. You fall off the camel, right? The first thing you do is arrange yourself, right? You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay, right? But I do imagine she did that. But then the text tells us, Pasuk Samach Daled, Samach Hey, Vatomer el ha'eved. She then turns to Eliezer and says, who's that dude that's coming toward us right now? Vayomer ha'eved, right? And imagine Eliezer getting so excited.
What have they called him Eliezer?
I almost to let us know he's a back burner. He is not the main character, but I agree, right? He says to her, "Who Adoni?" That's him, right? That's my master, AKA the one.
How did he know he wasn't like he could call him up and go, hey, now you can come now. Like,
He doesn't, meaning this is random.
all of a
This is
sudden,
total
random,
fluke.
kilo random.
Total
This is
fluke.
like miles away. Like,
And then what does she do? Vatikach hatzaif vatikas. She takes her scarf and covers herself. Now, most people, I think, read that pasuk and think like, oh, she fell and now she's getting all tsanua, because that's so awkward. But that would be more awkward.
Recording in progress.
That's weird, because it was recording before. But it's that idea of saying to yourselves, wait, it shouldn't happen in that order. If she was uncomfortable or embarrassed that part of her was visible from the fall, she would have already done that before she says to Eliezer, who's that guy, right? You don't let the skirt be flown up. Say, oh, who's that guy? Oh, that's who it is. Let me fix my skirt now, right? That's weird. So it's clearly not about fixing it from the fall. What does it mean?
I don't
I'm
think
gonna do the
her
visual.
hair somewhere.
she covered her hair.
Ulai, right?
But
Okay, so
why?
maybe
She's
she's
not married.
She covered her face.
right. She covers her hair with the scarf,
Is that
but
what they
that's also
did?
weird because
She probably did
She's
a
not
did-
married.
sorry.
Probably did like a bedekah or something like that.
Oh, some sort of face covering, possibly. I'm gonna give you a visual.
Sort of like a refresher, you know what I'm saying? Like she's been riding for who knows.
But
how many
isn't that a
hours.
weird thing for the text to tell me that? Meaning,
No, I mean.
why let me know
Well,
that she's doing a
something
second
about
round?
that, I guess.
So to me, I'm seeing the visual, right? Obviously, this is not a scarf, but I'm doing my best.
Oh.
I'm doing my
Yeah.
best of my visual, right? What does it mean? Some of it could definitely be tzniut. What else does it say?
Afraid.
Good, meaning there's body language
And
involved,
emotions.
right? The concept of she covers herself with the scarf is the text's way of saying, we can't show you body language, so we will in our way, right? She covers
guarding.
herself
Yeah.
with her scarf, meaning there's something about her that's feeling very uncomfortable and vulnerable right now, right? If we walk into a scene and we stand like this, it means there's something right now that I am not wanting you to see. Even though that's ridiculous. You clearly can't see it just because my hands are untucked. But there's something in the subconscious that is saying, ooh, I don't really want you to see everything right now.
Do we
There's
see
something I
that
wanna
word
cover.
anywhere else in Tanakh?
Which one?
Vatikas.
Yeah, kisui? Yeah, to cover something. Yeah, we do see that.
Well, in
So-
what context was that? You know, was it for
Ah.
protective, was it for?
It runs the gamut. So with Yehuda and Tamar, she covers herself because with the prostitutes used to wear, so she covered herself with that. There are other scenes. I'm trying to think that
Like, I wonder if it's guarded, you know what I'm
yes,
saying?
exactly. Meaning, I think there is an element here of she is guarding some piece, and the question is what? Sorry.
Didn't Moshe cover his face with his pajamas, right?
After when he had the Karen Or
And I
coming
couldn't
out.
see him.
Yes, meaning
So
he had
maybe
this
she's
ray of
like,
light
oh.
coming out after, and it was again protective. Something, but that was actually protective for us.
Maybe she's just in awe of him, of Yitzchak.
Ah, nice that there's something spiritual. Beautiful. Definitely something there, right? But I actually believe this scene, right? Because the first meet is huge, right? It may be a cute scene, but it's also incredibly telling, right? What is her reaction to meeting him? There's something about me I don't want you to see.
Well,
There's
she fell
something
over,
about me.
didn't she?
Sorry?
She fell over. Of course.
Excellent.
She's
Part of it is
embarrassed.
I'm embarrassed of what
Yeah.
just happened, right? Like, this is such an
Yeah.
awkward first meeting, right? I think that's as shot as it gets, and I agree. But I think it can even go one step further, because there is something
Like
that
embarrassed
her
for her
whole,
family.
excellent, say it
Where she
again?
came from. She's embarrassed for where she came from. Her family.
Excellent. The piece of her history will always consistently, and we will watch it through their entire story, be the piece of her that she is always doing this to, right? The concept of, oh, I heard about you, you come from Abraham.
Yeah, but he's not
I am
Mio.
exactly.
But
that
he's not Mio
insecurity.
Derma. He also did trickery, but she doesn't know.
No, you expected.
I'm saying, oh no, I'm talking
Your
about Yaakov. No,
next
she's in
generation.
Yaakov, yeah.
Next generation.
Right.
Right? To her, Abraham, she has heard about since childhood. This wow man who speaks to God, who literally up and moved his life for God, and is so spiritual and is so special. And then this Eved comes and talks about Yud-Kei Vav-Kei the whole time, about how amazing his master is and his master's son, and they're so spectacular. And she's like, oh gosh, well, I come from people who lie and manipulate, which is why I choose to leave. But it's also a little piece of me I choose to not wear on my sleeve, so to speak, because I'm embarrassed about it. And let's not forget, we'll even go into the family dynamic later, but forget even his family dynamic. Polygamy was a thing. Polygamy was normal. And therefore, it's not that the wife you didn't want gets to get divorced and try again and start a new life. She's just locked into that marriage. So as a female, there are pieces of you never want known. If there's a chance, he would replace you with somebody else. And therefore, I think for her, this is her natural, immediate response to, oh wow, it's not just what I heard, I'm seeing it, right? There is something about you. There is something striking, and there is something I don't want you to know about me, right? But then let's see his reaction to her, which is so magnificent. Pasuk Samach Vav, Vayisaper ha'eved liYitzchak et kol hadvarim asher asa. And then Eliezer tells Yitzchak about everything that happened, right? Oh my, she's literally sent by God, right? I gave God this explicit tefillah of what exactly I'm looking for, and boom, she walks out and does exactly that. She's a godsend in the most literal sense, Yitzchak, right? Pasuk Tetzayin, Vayiviyaha Yitzchak ha'oel Sarah imo. And what does he do for her? He brings her, to his mommy Sarah's tent, right? And I think about the scene of that concept when you're dating someone and you first introduce them to the people that mean something to you because you feel like that gives them an insight into you, right? I want you to meet my family so that you get me better. I want you to meet my best friends because you'll get me better, right? I want to bring you to my hometown because now all of a sudden the stories I've told you on all the dates will come alive a little bit. And what's the one thing he wants her to meet? My mother. But even though she's no longer alive, I'll do whatever I can to let you get to know her. Because to get to know her is to understand me, right? So I'm going to bring you into my mother's tent so you can meet her, quote, Vayikach et Rivka v'tehilo l'isha. He marries Rivka, and then immediately, Vayavema, he loves her. Vayinachem Yitzchak acharei imo. And for the first time, he has comfort after the loss of his mother, right? It's the first time he feels, I have someone in my life that will love me on whatever level of unconditional they can, because this is what I'm missing, right? And again, we don't see him introducing her to Abraham, and we don't see that interaction, but I want you to meet my mom in her tent. I want you to see who she was, because that is the piece of me I want you to know. And immediately he is comforted. And there's something so heartwarming about the scene that to me is always warm and fuzzy, so to speak. Right? I do want to acknowledge a few things about Tanakh in this pasuk. And I think we mentioned it, but I can't remember because I can't think of if it came up. Every winter.
Do you want water? Like, are you?
bothers me, but my voice gives. Aye. Hopefully it'll come back. I'll let you know. Huh, okay, I think we're okay. Possibly I'm gonna take it to hold for if this runs out. You know what, pour it into my hand just because I don't want to hemorrhages. Thank you, perfect. Okay, you know what, you're right, I'll suck it just in case. In general, in Tanakh, did we talk about unrequited love, the concept of A loves B?
No.
In Tanakh, there is no scene, no couple, no relationship where it will tell us A loves B and B loves A, or A and B left each other. It just doesn't say it. It tells us Abraham loves Sarah. It tells us Yitzchak loves Rivka. It tells us Yaakov loves Rachel. It never even tells us Leah loves Yaakov. You just assume a lot. It tells us that Yonatan loves David, that Michal loves David. I'm trying to think of anybody else.
Everybody loved David except
Everybody, it's so true. But he started with it when he first meets him.
Everybody
Loves
what?
him. Loves David. He's beloved. He's just a beloved character. But the idea in Tanakh of love, I don't believe is trying to teach us about unrequited love. I don't believe it's ever trying to say, A love B, but that's it. That's where it ends it. I think what it's trying to say is that love is a seesaw in every dynamic, right? On any given day, A loves B more than B loves A. And then there are days that B will love A more than A loves B. Because that's just life, right? No two people love each other the exact same amount at any given moment. And therefore, Tanakh only tells us of one direction. I don't think it's because the love is one direction. I think it's because in that moment, the love is stronger from the character it's highlighting. So Yitzchak loves Rivka. Does it ever tell us Rivka loves Yitzchak? No, it doesn't. But I don't believe that doesn't mean she does. I don't believe Rachel didn't love Yaakov. I don't believe that David didn't love Michal. I think all of these relationships were two directional, but it starts with a more intense feeling from one. And therefore here it's letting us know Yitzchak is already in love with Rivka and immediately literally goes to her and is with her completely. And that love, as we're going to see, is such an incredible bond because he is the only one of the Avot that will never have another wife. He will never take another wife. Right? There's a lot that's going to be unique to Yitzchak. That to me is the nicest, the warmest, the happiest. Right? He is the only one without a name change. Right? Avram to Avraham, Yaakov to Yisrael. Yitzchak is just Yitzchak. Right? Because why does he never get a name change?
because Hashem named him.
Because God named him from the get-go. Right? There was no need for a change when God was the one that chose the name from the start. In addition, he'll never leave Israel. Right? We'll highlight as we get to know him better that he is an incredibly unique one of the Avot. And part of it is this love for Rivka. But now I want to go to Mincha for a few minutes. Is that okay if we backtrack? So we go back to those two psukim, Samach Bet and Samach Gimel. V'Yitzchak ba mibo be'er l'chai roi, v'hu yoshev be'eretz hanegev. Right? And it's so unnecessary. Why do I care that he's coming from Be'er l'chai roi? You want to tell me he's in the field right now, about to meet Rivka, because happenstance, how random, great. Why are you telling me that he's coming from Be'er l'chai roi, especially because we know what Be'er l'chai roi is, right? If we want to jump back just for a minute to Perek Tet Zayin, it is not the well that saved Yishmael's life. I want to acknowledge where Be'er l'chai roi comes in. Perek Tet Zayin is the perek where Hagar ran away when she was pregnant and ran away from Sarah. And that is where she got the prophecy that Yishmael was going to be born and that he would become a great nation. And then she names it. After that, if you jump into Perek Tet Zayin Pasuk Yudalid, Al Kain Kara LeBe'er Be'er l'chai roi, Hinei ben Kadesh u'ben Bared. She names it Be'er Lachai Ro'i, right? And I apologize, we should actually go back to Yud Gimel, where she does the naming. Vatikra Shem Hashem HaDoveri Laha. She names this place where God spoke to her, Hatak Kel Ra'i. God has appeared to me.
Where are you again?
I'm in part Tet Zayin,
Mhm.
Pasuk Yud Gimel. After she got the prophecy of Yishmael, she says, this is where the living God appeared to me, and then therefore names the place Be'er Lachai Ro'i. But it'll come out throughout Bereshit, but all because of her name, right? This is the name that Hagar chose for this place, because this is where the living God appeared to me and gave me this prophecy about Ishmael, right? So why is it telling us that Yitzchak went there, especially when Pasuk Samach Gimel, Vayetze Yitzchak lasuach basadeh, right? Yitzchak was coming from working in the field, and here's where Chazal says, what does lasuach mean? What kind of work was he doing in the field? Avodah shabalev. He was doing the work of the heart, and he was praying. It was the institution of Tfilat Mincha. So why did he have to go to Be'er Lachai Ro'i before Mincha? Now there's many different interpretations. I'll tell you two that for me are very significant. The first is actually very cute. That it says that if who lived by Be'er Lachai Ro'i, who was there, as you mentioned before? Yishmael with, who lived right next to Yishmael?
Who's married to Ishmael?
Not married to. Who would he have been living with still?
His father. No.
Not his father. His father is Abraham. Hagar, right? According to one midrash, he went to go talk to Hagar to get her to go back to Abraham. It was after Sarah passed away, and he felt like, now is your time. Now you can go back, and you can go be with my father. And I think that midrash is beautiful, because I view that midrash similar to the midrash we mentioned last week, that he spent 3 years fighting with God until he became okay. I think this midrash is saying he went to go get Hagar, saying, now I'm okay with my father, right? Like, after everything that's been, and now I can close the door on that chapter, you can go marry. Which is why she then, if you look, the connection of the midrash is Perek Kaf Hey, jumps to Vayosef Avram Yikach Isha Ushma Keturah, that he remarries, right? And again, the midrash thinks Keturah is Hagar. So therefore, it's all in connection that they are giving Yitzchak the credit for going to Hagar and sending her to Abraham at this point, which I think is, number one, lovely. But again, for me, this midrash is significant because I think it's his way of saying to his dad, I'm okay. I'm okay, we're okay, and you can go back to Hagar. So I think there's something beautiful there, but we're going to take it a little bit deeper now. And it's the Yalkut Shimoni, whose idea that we're going to be talking about now. The Yalkut Shimoni starts with the question of why Mincha, Yitzchak, right? If Abraham initiated Shacharit, he says, I get it. Shacharit makes sense, right? If you want to institute a tefillah, of course, the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning, right? Even since little kids forget tefillah, Modani, right? I want to wake up and think right away, I owe you one, right? Thank you for waking me up, and now I'm charged for the day of whatever my mission is that I believe God has given me. And then the Yalkut Shimoni says, but if I were Yitzchak, and I had to choose the second tefillah, right? What would be the next most logical time you would choose to Marv? Excellent. The concept of right before we go to sleep. I mean, I feel like that one in some ways is even more logical than Shacharit, right? Like, let me cheshbon hanefesh my day, right? Here is what went well today, God. Thank you for that. Here's what did not go as well, that I'm hoping you can fix something while I'm sleeping to make sure that tomorrow goes a little bit better, right? So why Mincha? What is this concept of Mincha? And the Yalkut Shimoni says, and I always find it a little bit creepy because the Yalkut Shimoni lived in the 1100s, so obviously not in our time yet. The Yalkut Shimoni says that every one of the Avot understood that they were Ma'aseh Avot Siman Labanim, and their representation was not just what they wanted to give over, but whoever they were combating and whatever challenges they were dealing with would resurface in the future. And according to the Yalkut Shimoni, Yitzchak understood who was his combat, who was the Nigud, Yishmael, says, problem is, Yishmael was born out of the power of Be'er Lachai Ro'i. He was born out of a prayer, out of a God's message of prophecy appearing to Hagar. And what can I do to combat this? What's my strength to rebuttal this? And Yitzchak, what is his greatest quality? What is the greatest message he has taught us? The concept of Mesirat Nefesh, right?
Gvura, also
Even
Gvura.
more than Gvura, or part of the Gvura, is the concept I was literally willing to give my life, right? The true definition of Mesirat Nefesh. I was willing to be bound and give my life to God, which eerily, right, is one of their greatest strengths as well, of the concept of Mesirat Nefesh. And therefore, Yitzchak, bless you, chose Mincha with the understanding of Mesirat Nefesh. Because as we all can attest, remembering God in the middle of our day and pressing pause, whether it's in the middle of work or pickup or making dinner or whatever it may be in life, Mincha is very challenging. It's very challenging whether it's in winter and all of a sudden you turn around and it's dark outside, or in the summer when you're just busy with your day and you're enjoying a lovely day on the beach with your kids, and oh shoot, I have to press pause and be Moser Nefesh and self-sacrifice to actually remember God and include Him. And sadly, for good and for bad, I am consistently in awe and fear of the level of Mesirat Nefesh of Yishmael's descendants. I have never been on the road at Shkia and not seen Arab cars pulled over with their mat out and on the floor praying. Because they will stop everything, whether they're at a job that they bring the carpet to or on the road. They are Moser Nefesh to remember to pray.
I don't
And
feel like they're more than us. Like I've seen a lot of
Five
people. I
times,
do
right?
it. I see a lot of people do it. I don't feel like they're more.
Yes, I was about to say, they're actually 5, we're only 3. Gotta give them credit where credit is due. And what Yitzchak is doing for us here is he is taking the koach of Be'er Lachai Ro'i, channeling whatever koach hatfila is there from Hagar, bringing it lasuach basadeh, to institute the power of tfilat mincha for us. And the Yalkut Shimoni's final line was, and if we can truly tap into the power of mincha and the power of Mesirat Nefesh, then the true definition of Yishmael and the name, because the definition was Kishama Hashem et ani, Hashem heard my suffering. According to the Yalkut Shimoni, who obviously was not living in our time, eerily, said, if we can tap into mincha and if we can tap into the koach of Mesirat Nefesh, then Hashem, Kishama Hashem et ani, God will hear our suffering at the hands of Yishmael and answer our tefillot. So maybe we be zocha, but it's to tap into that mincha and Mesirat Nefesh. So with that, we're going to continue into our story. So Yitzchak loves Rivka. Perek Kaf Hey, we are going to skip. Perek Kaf Hey is the marriage and many, many other children of Avraham Avinu. He has other kids, and according to the text, he gives all those kids gifts. But Yitzchak is going to be the sole inheritor of everything. And then Pasuk Yud Bet goes into the descendants of Yishmael. Again, unimportant for our story. So we're going to jump into Parshat Toldot. We are hopefully going to get to the Midrash today. So Parshat Toldot, which is Perek Kaf Hey, Pasuk Yud Tet. Ve'ela Toldot Yitzchak. These are the stories and descendants of Yitzchak ben Avraham. Right? He is Yitzchak ben Avraham. Avram Halida Yitzchak. Avraham was the father of Yitzchak. Right? It is reminding us of a few things. One, Avraham and Yitzchak have not been in the same scene, but he's very much his father. Don't doubt that. Don't doubt the bond. Don't doubt where he came from, etc. And this is now the dynasty, not just of Yitzchak, but appreciating this is also the dynasty of Avraham. Pasuk Chaf. Vayihi Yitzchak ben 40 shana bekachto et Rivka bat Betuel ha'arami mipadan Aram achot Lavan ha'arami lo liisha. Yitzchak was 40 years old when he took Rivka, the daughter of Bethuel, from Padan Aram, the sister of Lavan from Padan Aram, as a wife. So first, the age 40 is going to be significant to us throughout our story. But the obvious question in the Mefarshim here is, we know her. We spent an exceptionally long chapter meeting daddy, meeting brother, meeting where she comes from. Who cares? Why are you repeating that she is from Padan Aram, the daughter of Bethuel from Padan Aram, and the sister of Lavan from Padan Aram, right? And this is a Rashi that I think is definitely on the more famous side, and I think many of us appreciate what Rashi says here, right? Why does it tell us all these details? To tell you she came from a people that were horrible, of Rishaim from Padan Aram, from the father who was horrible and manipulative, from a brother who was horrible and manipulative. And yet, who is she? Fabulous. She is a tzadikah, wonderful, amazing. Now this Rashi is going to be crucial because of the next pasuk. Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Vayater Yitzchak Lashem. Sorry, Vayatar Yitzchak Lashem. And Yitzchak praised to God. Lenochach Ishto. Lenochach Ishto literally means opposite his wife, but not opposite as like good, more opposite like we're standing opposite one another.
Face to face.
Like face to face. Right. Physically opposite one another. Kiakarahi. Because she was barren. Vayater lo Hashem, and God answers him. Vatahar Rivka Ishto, and Rivka gets pregnant. Now this has so many pieces we have to understand. Number one, I want to make sure I start with the idea. I am not saying that Avraham didn't daven for Sarah. And I am not saying that Yaakov didn't daven for Rachel. But what I am saying is it doesn't tell us in the text. It does not give pasuk airtime for the idea that Avraham davened for Sarah or that Yaakov davened for Rachel. But the pasuk is going out of its way to let us know that Yitzchak davened for Rivka because she was barren. And again, you just have to have that little heart flutter, like, oh, I love you a little more now, Yitzchak, because you're so good. You're so good and you're so in touch, right? And now we're going to go to that midrash, and to appreciate that midrash, I want you to just appreciate what we saw. How old was Yitzchak when they got married? 40. And it will tell us, spoiler alert, it will tell us at the birth of the twins, right? They are going to be the parents of Yaakov and Esav. So just for a second, I want you to jump to Pasuk Chaf Vav, the birth of Yaakov, the second. Right? Esav's brother then comes out, holding Esav's heel. Vayikra Shemo Yaakov, they name him Yaakov. V'Yitzchak ben Shishim Shana, B'Leded Otam. He is 60 years old when the twins are born, meaning they waited how long for these
20
kids?
years.
20 years. Okay? She was barren for 20 years. And what did he never do in those 20 years? Marry somebody else. Right? And you have to just, again, appreciate what Vayater Lashem. He did not want to marry anyone else. Why not?
Because he loved her.
Excellent. Lefi Upshot, he loves her. And why else, you think?
Because of what his father did.
Excellent. He saw what that did to his mother. He saw the complications of the Hagar Ishmael dynamic in his family, and he wanted none of that. I don't need that. I saw how sad my mom was. I saw how hard that was. I was there when they got kicked out, and what a rift that was for my parents, for me, the discomfort. I don't need that. And I imagine, who did he tell that story to? Rivka, right? And that's going to have a major impact on the pregnancy. We're going to talk about that soon.
And his added sensitivity of he was almost sacrificed, so more sensitive to having a child that you're not going to sacrifice.
100%.
Have a child and keep the child.
Most definitely. Obviously, we'll see the impact on Rivka soon. But right now, I just want to focus on Yitzchak. I don't want another wife. I don't want that to happen. Therefore, what is my only solution? Vayater Lashem.
Daven.
Right? You've got to fix this, God, because I don't want that other scenario. So you literally, Ein lanu al min le'yisha'en. I have no one else to rely on. Ela avinu shebashamayim, except for you. Right? And it's that power in that statement that's wowing. And now we're going to address that midrash because I think there's actually beauty in the midrash. I do not think Rivka was 3. Okay? But where do I think the midrash is coming from? Midrash has its own problem because there's midrashim that are like nice and fluffy, and then there's midrash halacha. Midrash halacha is certain halachot are based on midrash, and that we don't go against, right? And the idea of midrash halacha comes up a few times. Number 1, midrash and Chazal believe that all of the avot kept Taryag mitzvot. Right? I imagine you've probably heard this at some point in your life. They somehow knew the Torah, and they kept all of the halachot of the Torah. That being said, we're going to jump back one more time to a different scene that we saw in Perek Tet Zayin also. Wow, I didn't realize how much we're doing Tet Zayin tonight and process that. But if you jump back to Perek Tet Zayin, Pasuk Gimel. This is when Sarah realizes God has stopped her from having a child, and she's coming up with the idea of Hagar, right? Here's the surrogate, right? Pasuk Gimel. Vatikach Sarai Eshet Avraham et Hagar Hamitzrit Shivchata. So Sarai, the wife of Avram, takes her servant Hagar, Miketz Eser Shanim Lashevet Avram Be'eretz Canaan, after they were living there for 10 years, and she gives Hagar as a wife to Abraham. And on the words Miketz Eser Shanim, after 10 years of living in Israel, the Gemara quotes that line and says, Chayav, it uses the word obligation. A man has an obligation to have children. And if after 10 years they can't have children, he should be divorcing his wife. That's also a Midrash Halacha. So now Chazal have a problem. Because Yitzchak should be following the Torah. And the Torah says you need to divorce your wife or marry another if after 10 years your wife doesn't have a child. So they come up with what I see as their solution. Wait a sec. If she was 3 when they got married, then the first 10 years don't count because they weren't really married. Because she wasn't able to have relations or were ovarian, so she couldn't have conceived. So they really only got married 10 years later, and now we're at the 10-year point, which is why now he's in desperate tefillah mode, because I don't want to marry another, and I don't want to get divorced.
But it could have worked if she was not 3, she could have been like any time under 13, like
No, you need
7
10
or
years, you
8.
need 10 years.
I'm saying, oh,
If
just
she was
get to
7,
13.
then earlier than 10 years, she would have gotten her
Right,
period. So 3 was the safest choice.
Okay.
Again,
10 years steadfast, okay.
I
Yeah.
am starting with the idea, I don't believe she was 3. I think what Chazal was doing was trying to get themselves out of a problem. And this is their way of getting themselves out of a problem.
But it makes him a paedophile, unfortunately.
More Eliezer. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think he married her in those first 10 years. I think she lived in the house and whatnot. But yes, again, I don't see that as pshat, but I do hear their concern that they have a problem if they believe that Yitzchak should be following all Taryag mitzvot, and they believe that they've been married for 20 years, and after 10 years he should have married someone else. So either Yitzchak is not following the rules, or they have to fix their own problem.
And they don't explain the horse thing, because if you're 3, you're definitely getting horse by yourself. That they didn't figure out.
It's halacha that you must.
The words of the Gemara is chayav. I believe the way we interpret it in today's times, or even not even so modern, is at that point, at minimum, you need to start seeking treatment. So, meaning most would start earlier, but that would be a time of chayav. You need to start doing some alternate option. of being able to.
You know, I wonder if you look, when you look at that relationship, Yitzchak and Rivka, and it feels like also, he's kind of creating the scenario, Hashem has to do this next, because they were promised to be the avot of, so it's like, there's no other choice, Hashem, you have to do this.
Except Yitzchak, we haven't seen a dialogue between God and Yitzchak yet. It's coming, but it hasn't happened yet.
Oh, so I didn't know if he knew, if Yitzchak knew that.
I believe it was already given over from Abraham, but al pi hadibur, for God to say to him, you are going to be the
Right.
father of a great nation, and XYZ, and the land, and the and etc., that hasn't happened yet.
So when this whole story with Hagar and Sarah and everything happened before Hashem promised Abraham?
No, Hashem promised Abraham
Before.
before.
So I'm saying, like, if he would have had that same,
Dream concept.
if he chose the same way as Yitzchak and said, you know what, I'm not marrying someone else. Hashem said it's coming from you, like whatever, that,
It was Sarah's plan.
It's gonna
Meaning,
happen.
don't forget, it wasn't Abraham, it was Sarah.
right, so I wonder why that all had to happen.
I agree. I think that is, at least for me, is such a powerful reminder of female guilt. Meaning, I think that scene was all rooted in her feeling guilty that she was the reason he was being held back. So, I don't want to hold you back anymore. But yes. Okay, so now we're not done with that pasuk. We still have a lot more to do on that pasuk, sorry. But, Vayater Yitzchak Hashem, he davens Hashem opposite his wife because she is barren, and then Vayater lo Hashem. God answers her. And here, again, Rashi is confused, or bothered, or intrigued, I guess is the best word, right? Saying, when it says that he's davening opposite his wife, Rashi interprets that as they're both davening, right? She's on one side, he's on the other, and they're both praying, right? Let us have a child. Bless us with a child, right? But then the text goes out of its way to tell us, Vayater lo Hashem. And God answers him. So Chazal ask a stunning question. Lo v'lo la. Him and not her. Why not her? Now I'm going to tell you the words of Rashi, and I don't want you to get offended yet, and I don't want you to get upset yet.
Yes.
Because it's beautiful if you just give it a minute. So Rashi, quoting Chazal, says, Lo v'lo la, him and not her, ki ein domeh tfilat tzaddik ben tzaddik letfilat tzaddik ben rasha. You cannot compare the davening and the prayers of a tzaddik, the son of a tzaddik, versus the prayers of a tzaddik, the son of a rasha. And most people, myself included, the first time I read that Rashi, was offended. And I was like, I've been taught since childhood that a ba'alat tshuva or a baal tshuva is as high as it comes. I can't possibly stand in the feet of the dust of the feet of a baal tshuva. So what is Chazal saying here? That makes no sense. That you're telling me that Yitzchak's tefillot were better because he is the tzaddik ben tzaddik and she's only a tzaddik ben rasha. But if I take a few more minutes to delve in, we can appreciate it. So we have to take even a step further back into halacha and understand the concept of reward in mitzvot, right? And the example I always think of, if let's say, personally, I like to have my own arba minim. I like my own lulav, my own esrog, partially because I don't make it to shul, so I don't want to rely on RAs, and partially I just like it. I like the concept. And I always think about that theme. That if, let's say, I did make it to shul, and let's say I was standing right on one side of that mechitza with my arba minim, and Aryeh was in this seat, right on the other side of the mechitza with his arba minim. Do we both get the same credit in God's eyes? And halacha actually says, no, we don't. Right? Why not? Who gets more?
He does.
He does. The halacha says Aryeh gets more than I do.
You don't have to.
Because gadol ha-mitzuvah v'osa mishalo mitzuvah v'osa. Those who are commanded to do something and do it get more credit than those who are not commanded to do it and choose to do it.
Because God, in his design of us, understands that humans love choice, right? It empowers us, right? I think about this every time I have to do bedtime, right? Ozzy, do you want 2 more minutes of playtime, or do you want me to read a book in your room? And as soon as he owns the choice, he goes to bed that much better than if I just said bedtime's in 2 minutes, right? If I say bedtime, if I forget to do the choice scene, right, and I say bedtime's in 2 minutes, God help me, mamash, right? It's that idea that humans love choice. We feel empowered by it because we don't like feeling like we are being told what to do. That's incredibly stifling. That's incredibly unfair to us. And we almost, dare I say, rebel against the concept of being told to do something, to do it. What Rashi is highlighting here for us in Yitzchak is huge. Because he just told us in the pasuk before, Rashi himself said, Rivka's awesome. She's the daughter of a Russia and a sister of a Russia, and she came from Russia, and she's still awesome. But don't you dare underappreciate Yitzchak. Because to be Avraham's son, to have been willing to go to that Akedah and still be frum and still worship God, that's mind-blowing. Yitzchak is the first story of from birth. That kid who was raised frum and didn't go off the derech and didn't rebel and need a Shana Aleph here to bring him back in. He did it all on his own. And what the pasuk is reminding us is that's incredible. That's magical. That's literally as good as it gets. And this is going to be who Yitzchak is to us. What will be spectacular as we watch him unfold is he doesn't need to pave his own way. He doesn't need to leave a new legacy in this world. He is proud to just redo the legacy of his father, because it's that reminder to us of how hard that is. It's incredibly hard to stay on path. It's incredibly hard to stay consistent. It's incredibly hard to feel like we don't have a choice in life, that it was just given to us. But he does it in stride. Therefore, Vayater Lo, Hashem answers him and says, I want the world to see how hard this is, how spectacular this is, and what you are bringing to the table. So if ever we think, well, Yitzchak doesn't have awesome stories about him, and Yitzchak has such a short few blips, no, it's amazing. His blips are phenomenal, right? So I just want to make sure we see him in that stunning light before we get to the pregnancy. Any questions on that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you said. Oh, go ahead. No, Naomi was saying before, we're assuming it's always the issues with the woman.
Well, the text is telling us. Kiakarahi.
Is there like,
Akara could be,
She's barren, meaning something is going on with her.
that's
Yes.
the mashma'ut.
Yes, that's the mashma'ut of akara.
And then it would also make sense to me if it wasn't that way, that wasn't the only thing, Vayanem Lo.
So ulai that, yes, beautiful shot. I think akara is literally, it affects something with the rechem, but I think it's a beautiful way of seeing the shot.
what are the chances of like 3 in a
All
row having
all
have-
four. Leah also, it says that God fixes her because he sees she's hated. All 4 were akarut.
Right.
We're gonna get
Isn't
to Leah.
that weird?
It is.
Why did they wait
It
so
is.
long to daven?
Right, excellent. So meaning, I think that's the same answer as I think Avram davens and I think Yaakov davens. I think it's this moment the text wants us to see, to highlight this is that desperate, like, final plea. Like, I really don't want to marry anybody else. Please let this be our moment. And this is Vatahar, right? And literally, his prayers are answered, and Vatahar Rivka Ishto, his wife gets pregnant.
And we're saying this is 10 years after, like
20.
20, right, Mark.
20, right? Which we'll just start the pregnancy now. Pasuk Chaf Bet, Vayitrotzitzu habanim b'kirba. Now I want to acknowledge the word Vayitrotzitzu. People have attempted translation. It is a hapex megamenon. That's a Latin phrase for a shoresh that doesn't show up anywhere else in Chumash. people I think often misinterpret and say rats, they're running. It's ratzatz, it's resh tzadi tzadi, this shoresh. It is not a shoresh that shows up anywhere else. So every hypothetical translation is just that, hypothetical. Okay, so by rotzitzu abanim b'kirbat, the boys are doing something inside her, right? Very ambiguous. Something is happening inside her that, based on whatever's happening, vatomer, she says, im kain lama ze anochi. If that's true, why is this happening to me? Vatelech ledrosh et Hashem, and she goes to ask God, right? And I always think, if you had Google, would you have Vatelech ledrosh et Hashem? Is that what would have happened? Right? And I think back to literally my first OB appointment, in my first pregnancy, my doctor had a mug on her desk that said, don't mistake your Google search for my medical degree. And it was that reminder of like, oh, okay, so when I Googled all the tests from the blood test that came back in red, that I think, God forbid, God only knows what's gonna happen, and she's like, no, those are all good things. I'm like, oh, okay, right? But I think of those stories when I read this pasuk, because I don't imagine Hashem was her first knock on a door. If someone is feeling something in their pregnancy that's odd, where do they go? A doctor. Great, so let's say there were no doctors back then. I'll even go out on a limb. Maybe they didn't have doctors. Where would be the logical next knock on door?
Midwife?
A midwife. Excellent. Meaning you go to someone who you think has some level of expertise on the concept of pregnancy, right? So you find a midwife, you find other females who have had children, right? And you say, I'm having XYZ symptom, right? And what I always found amazing is you could Google two opposite symptoms, and Google will still tell you, oh, I'm pregnant, totally normal. Oh, I'm nauseous and I can't eat a thing, totally normal. I can't stop eating, totally normal, right? I can't sleep, totally normal. I'm exhausted and need to sleep all the time, totally normal, right? Opposite extremes, it's totally normal. Everything's totally normal when you're pregnant. And yet, whatever is happening to her, Vatomer, Im Kain, if that's true, aka everyone's telling me I'm crazy, Lama ze anochi? Why is this happening to me? Right? Meaning whatever is happening in this pregnancy is not on the normal list, on even the opposite normal lists. And people are telling her something's off. And therefore, Vatelech ledrosh et Hashem. But I want to end on a question. Oh, that's not fair. We have 2-week break. No, that's not fair. All right, we will end here. The next week is Hanukkah. So we're off for Hanukkah. So we will pause here that she has a very strange pregnancy. Period.
Okay,
Bum, bum, bum.
That's the whole midrash.
thank you. 2 weeks.
Yes, so we're gonna